and learned nothing as a result of it. So the superintendent is not on board with this, said that these instructional methods are unacceptable. They can traumatize Black students and they trivialize the horrors of slavery. Both of those are definitely true. But as I said, we've seen this sort of thing many times. But don't you worry. In this case, the teacher decided to go above and beyond and make it even weirder, okay? So in April, the same teacher, this is across the course of months, by the way, the same teacher read from and discussed a book that's not a part of the curriculum, adding that the teacher used the N-word. But that doesn't even appear in the book's pages. So when I first saw that, I thought that she had found a book that had the N-word in it. And because she was so desperate to read it or whatever, this is my speculation, she decided to use it even though it's not in the curriculum. But that's not even what happened. The N-word isn't even in the book. So that's not even an explanation as to why she thought she'd found some sort of loophole where she could set it, okay? So now, obviously there's criticism of this, there's pushback. And once she was caught and the pushback started, she decided to go after one of the students who'd complained about this pattern of racist behavior. Apparently, the teacher learned the identity of at least one of those students and complained about one of the two incidents. She called out the student, and the superintendent said that the singling out of the student was not acceptable, obviously. Now, the superintendent is saying they didn't learn about the incidents until the April incident. They didn't know about the January thing at that point. But now they are taking it seriously. The teacher was placed on leave and is undergoing a due process procedure that could determine their status within the district. The school's principal was placed on 10 days of paid leave in May. I don't know how much the principal knew, although theoretically you should probably be keeping a little bit better tabs. Look, deal with the teacher however you will. It doesn't seem like they should probably be teaching because their judgment is utterly insane. But as a country, we've got to get past this. Can we do a PSA? Put it on all the cable channels at the same time. Have it be I don't know, have it play over Real Housewives or Vanderpump Rules or something to make sure that everyone sees it. And just say, don't do fake slave auctions. I'm not saying that we can solve every problem of racism we have in America, but I feel like that's not a super high bar to just not do the auctions anymore. That would be a little bit of improvement. Anyway, with that said, that's all the time we have for the show today. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this solo John-tastic Monday. You're gonna want to be here tomorrow, and not just because Wazzy Lambre is gonna be here. That's reason enough. But there might be something hair related that you'll want to see. I'm also hopefully gonna be showing the John NFT artwork that is gonna go to one of our leaderboard contestants. But with that said, for now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richard. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda to cover. We have none other than my brother from another mother, David Schuster, TYT contributor, All-Star, Rebel HQ contributor. Always a fascinating analysis. Top story of the day, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is begging the U.S. Supreme Court, please help me. Please get involved. Please do something before the sentencing after his conviction. Now, I want to remind everyone, this is what Donald Trump campaigned on. He just did an interview and said, well, I never said that. Here it is.
And I felt, and I could have done it, but I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me. And so I may feel differently about it. Like Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up, but the people would all say lock her up, lock her up. Okay, then we won. And I said pretty openly, I say, all right, come on, just relax, let's go. We gotta make our country great.
Trump was asked why he never went after Hillary Clinton for her use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State. So he points at himself and he says, I didn't say lock her up. Yes, you did.
Tell you what, for what she's done, they should lock her up. She's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. Hillary Clinton has to go to jail, okay? She has to go to jail. You should lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
The irony of it all. If you were a spiritual person, you would say reaping what you sow. There's more. Earlier this week, Trump was found guilty by all 34 counts by a Manhattan jury. This was last week, excuse me. Falsifying business records regarding hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels. Trump has denied all wrongdoing and claimed the trial was actually rigged. We dealt with that last week. Following his conviction, Speaker Mike Johnson told Fox and Friends that he believes the Supreme Court would become involved in the case, adding, quote, I think they are deeply concerned about that, as we are. So I think they'll set this straight. So here's the irony of it. Number one, Donald Trump wants to conflate the powers of government here. He wants you to believe that somehow the Manhattan DA or the jury, the grand jury that indicted him or the jury that convicted him, somehow these individuals are all in cahoots with the National Democratic Party or aligned with the Biden-Harris White House. This is an intentional conflation of the facts. So that he can then claim that this is a grand conspiracy. You see, the pattern is really simple with him. What he loses is because forces, powerful forces, got together and colluded. Now, remember, he actually spoke this into existence himself. Here it is.
She shouldn't be allowed to run. Okay, sure. If she were to win this election, it would create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. In that situation, we could very well have a sitting president under felony indictment and ultimately a criminal trial. It would grind government to a halt.
We're obviously living in a simulation. The irony of this happening now in real time, next election cycle. Trump, however, on Sunday evening, he appointed, as you know, 3 Supreme Court justices during his first term in the Oval Office, pleaded on Truth Social for the court to get involved before he is criminally sentenced. Now, why would the court get involved? Why? This was a local jurisdiction. The Manhattan DA is elected duly by the people in order to bring cases against wrongdoers. He has prosecutorial discretion, just like any other prosecutor. Has the right to negotiate, to drop charges or decrease them. These are common normative elements of our justice system. Donald Trump, as an ex-president, has absolutely no constitutionally recognized immunities or protections. But for some reason, the Supreme Court should get involved with a case that simply has no Supreme Court value, meaning of national importance, at least by standards of the Constitution. No protections are provided. But if the Supreme Court gets involved to make a ruling on if an ex-president can be prosecuted for crimes that they committed and crimes they were indicted for and crimes they were convicted of, all by members of a jury, American citizens. If the Supreme Court will get involved in order to broker or to override the will of the people, they are already telling you they want to hand over power to a dictator. So look for the Supreme Court's ruling if they decide to take the case. So Trump posted this. Obviously, he was in his not happy place. The sentencing for not having done anything wrong will be conveniently for the fascists 4 days before the Republican National Convention. Trump wrote this to his followers. He added, quote, a radical left Soros-backed DA who ran on a platform of, I will get Trump, reporting to an acting local judge appointed by the Democrats who is highly conflicted, will make a decision which will determine the future of our nation. The United States Supreme Court must decide. Republican nominee and convicted felon has vowed to appeal the sentence at the state level in New York. Why are you appealing at the state level, sir? Oh, because you can't appeal at the federal level. But you want the federal court, the chief appellate court in the nation, to save you. I'm actually happy this is happening. You see, it reveals him for who he is. It's just a man, poor excuse for one if you ask me. But these are his moments of significant vulnerability. You see, if Democrats understood messaging, just continue to loop him saying, lock her up. Continue to loop him saying the constitutional crisis, because he's the one creating it. He's individual convicted. And also how terribly unfair it would be for individuals who had some level of entanglement with law enforcement in a particular state. They can't even vote. But this man with 34 felony convictions can run for president and be commander-in-chief. All right, David, thoughts here?
Well, when Donald Trump talks about the sentencing hearing in July being convenient for fascists, he must be referring to his own lawyer as a fascist, because it was Todd Blanche who said to the court when Donald Trump was convicted, I would like the sentencing hearing to be in mid to late July. So the court agreed.
Exactly.
It just and picked a date that Todd Blanche was okay with. So that's the first thing. Secondly, it's really rich of Donald Trump to sort of say that the court system has no legitimacy, when at the same time, when his attorneys and when his team is asked, well, what about an appeal? Do you think it's going to be appealed? And Donald Trump is convinced, oh yes, we will be successful on appeal. So somehow the court has legitimacy if Donald Trump is successful on appeal, but it has no legitimacy if Donald Trump is not successful. And then the third sort of issue of hypocrisy in all this is you started with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump claiming, oh, I never said lock her up. I was trying to figure out, well, how can that possibly be true? I mean, you've got the videotape, and the only thing I can think of is that maybe Donald Trump meant to tell Fox and Friends, which by the way didn't push back on this, maybe he meant to say to Fox and Friends, well, I didn't tell my Justice Department to lock her up and to prosecute her. But if Donald Trump cannot make that distinction and not make that clear in an interview, a friendly interview with Fox and Friends, well, his dementia and his craziness is even worse than anybody imagines. Yeah. This is not a difficult thing to say, yeah, I said lock her up during the campaign, but I didn't tell my Justice Department to lock her up. The inability to make that distinction shows that he's got even more problems than we know.
Right, and the inability of two damn journalists not reminding him of this is even worse. All right, hell of a thing. A man decides to physically assault a 10-year-old and say, well, the 10-year-old deserved it, playing with a water pistol. Put up the picture full mass. Florida. in Florida, 60-year-old Robert Sandy Marcoux has been arrested after a shocking video showed him choking, violently shaking a child. Now, we can't show that video and we've blurred out the image to protect the minor, but he's shaking this child by the neck. This was at a Sunny Isle Beach playground, Memorial Day. Later telling the police, quote, "I needed to teach him a lesson," end quote. Robert Sandy Marcoux faces felony charges of battery, strangulation, and aggravated child abuse, according to the arrest warrant issued on May 27th. There's more. He was jailed at the Turner Gulliford Night Correctional Center before a judge set a bond at a whopping $5,000 and ordered him to stay away from the victim. The incident happened at Gwen Margolis Park on North Bay Road and was filmed by another child who grabbed his cell phone when the child saw the adult confront the young victim over a minor altercation involving his son. So the son and the victim attend the same school and were involved in an ongoing immature dispute, as children are sometimes, when another disagreement erupted on the playground. So here comes Father of the Year, okay? Mr. Marcoux. Children are arguing. He decided to settle the score. Police said the disturbing incident occurred as the children were play fighting with water pistols. Water. When the roughhousing triggered the dad, who grabbed his son's opponent by the neck with both hands and shook him like a rag doll. The man's grip cut off the child's airway temporarily, prevented his breathing. The victim's father told police at the scene that the police sergeant, Melissa Perot, said Marcoux took matters into his own hands and overreacted to what was basically child's play, noting that the two boys never exchanged blows. Quote, "He went ahead and approached the other child and proceeded to choke this child and violently choke him, causing this child to be extremely fearful, crying, and very upset." So Perot told the local news the attack left scratches and abrasions around the child's throat, and Marcoux was tracked down and later taken into custody. The sergeant said Marcoux openly admitted to attacking the child and shockingly said something to suggest that he deserved what happened. Quote, he basically spontaneously told the officers, "Yeah, I know what I did. I needed to teach him a lesson," the sergeant said. You can see from this video that you have a fully grown, tall, large man against this young, helpless child. So yes, absolutely, this child could have been seriously injured. The video was the critical piece, obviously, for the evidence needed in order to put him behind bars. The sergeant is praising the quick thinking of the other minor, the child, who filmed the episode. Quote, "We couldn't ask for a better video," she said, according to WPLG Local 10. The sergeant emphasized that it is never acceptable for an adult to physically grab a child, especially not their own. Now, I want to go back to something here because it sounds as if the sergeant is taking this seriously. Sounds as if the victim's father takes it seriously. But it doesn't seem like the judge did, because for such an aggressive action toward a child that you just walked up on and you commit this level of assault, could have killed this child. For you to get a $5,000 bond, I need you to understand what that means. 10%, $500, you go home. Bonding company, okay? And there's this disconnect between what he did to this victim and what he may be doing to his own child at home. Where's DFACS? Where's Child Protective Services, et cetera? Because typically that's the next line in the story, but not with him. He gets a slap on the wrist. The bond is not consequential at all, given the seriousness of the offense, and no mention of a further investigation into his parenting. All right. David, things like this remind me of how the justice system still, in its snap judgment, quick decision, they'll give a guy a $5,000 bond for walking up on a child and physically choking him like a rag doll.
Well, and I think that last point is perhaps the most important. That is, people who tend to lose their cool, who explode at somebody else, tend to also lose their cool and explode at members of their own family. And so you have to wonder if this father has been doing something horrible to his son or maybe to his wife. And you'd expect a judge at the very least to order some sort of investigation. I mean, whether it's the $5,000 bond is an issue or not. The judge said, look, the judge should have said, I'm going to give you a bond, but I'm also going to demand that Child Protective Services come and interview everybody in your family separately to find out what's going on. The other thing about this is, look, as a parent, I get that if somebody did anything untoward to my 10-year-old, to my 7-year-old, even if it was another kid, I would feel so protective. And of course, any parent would want to protect their children, even from another 7-year-old or another 10-year-old. If somebody's bullying them, of course, you're going to want to stop it. But the role of a grown-up is to say, no, wait a second, I'm going to use the system at hand to come up with some sort of justice. I'm not going to take matters into my own hand. I'm going to go to the school. I'm going to go to the police, whatever it is. But you don't take matters in your own hand. You simply use the process that's available to you. That's how you protect your kids, and you also protect your community. The moment all of us just start, doing whatever the heck we want, that's when our society starts to break down. And I just hope that the judge comes around on this case. Eventually, this guy serves some time in jail, that Child Protective Services goes in and does something here. And kudos to that other young man who had the presence of mind to take videos and photographs and make sure that this would be recorded so that everybody would know.
Well said. Well said. All right. They done did it. It is now illegal to stand by the police, according to Louisiana. Louisiana law makes it a crime now if you would like to stand near a cop, maybe listen to what they're saying or perhaps record them in public. No more. So a new Louisiana law, effective August 1st, will make it a crime to knowingly approach within 25 feet of a police officer, quote, engage in law enforcement duties. And of course, they will say that's at all times. After being ordered to step back, opponents fear it could hinder the public's ability to film police for accountability, citing cases like George Floyd's killing. Proponents argue it will ensure officer safety by creating a buffer zone. So Governor Jeff Landry, who has a law enforcement background, stated Tuesday during the bill signing, quote, this is part of our continued pledge to address public safety in this state. Keep this picture up for a minute. Once again, messaging and conflation. Public safety and policing are two totally different things. Public safety is the overall safety of the community. That is achieved by a multiplicity of programs, systems, and protocols. Policing is one aspect, and typically not a very good aspect at actually stopping crime or decreasing crime. Why? Because the police are reactionary agents. They react to crime as the design of the department. So if you want to decrease crime, which enhances public safety, you cannot look for your police department to do so. But they conflate these two intentionally. Put them up, full mass. So per the Associated Press, a nearly identical bill was vetoed last year by then Governor Mel Edwards, a Democrat, who called the measure unnecessary and said it could be used to, quote, chill exercise of the First Amendment rights. Now, I'm going to give you the scenario, okay? Let's say you're recording a cop. This cop has possibly done something that looks suspicious to you. You're roughly 50 feet away. The officer tells you you're interfering with the investigation. You say something like, no, I'm not, I'm way over here. The officer turns around and starts walking towards you quickly. And all of a sudden you're within the 25-foot zone and he can arrest you because the law does not provide a caveat for if the cop is approaching you. There's more. Each of us have a constitutional right to freely observe public servants as they function in public. and within the course and scope of their official duties. This is what Governor John Bel Edwards said. Edwards served in the U.S. Army, was the son of a sheriff, said that in last year's veto. Observations of law enforcement, whether by witnesses to an incident with officers, individuals interacting with officers, or members of the press, are invaluable in promoting transparency. However, with a new governor and the GOP's super majority in the Louisiana legislature, the bill had a clear path forward. State Rep. Brian Fontenay, the bill's author, said the state law provides officers with peace of mind and safe distance to do their job, end quote. Lawmakers opposing the bill, among the most outspoken Black Democrats, have echoed Edwards' fears that the bill could impede onlookers' ability to observe police officers. Well, that's what the statute is meant to do. The 25-foot buffer legislation fundamentally seeks to curtail Louisiana's ability to hold police accountable for violence and misconduct. That's what the ACLU of Louisiana said in the statement Tuesday. Quote, "We denounce the passage and signing of this legislation and urge our communities to stay vigilant and safe in response to these developments." The measure supporters argue nearby bystanders would still be close enough to film police interactions. Quote, "At 25 feet, that person can't spit in my face when I'm making an arrest," the state rep said while presenting his bill to the committee early in the year. Quote, "The chances of him hitting me in the back of the head with a beer bottle at 25 feet, it sure is a lot more difficult than if he's sitting right here." Representative, did you have any criminal stats to present to the committee that this was a problem for law enforcement? Statistically an issue? No, you didn't. You see, the issues that he proclaimed do happen on occasion, less than 1% of the time. So what is this new law addressing? Nothing. It's trying to stop individuals from feeling comfortable with recording police officers. There's more. Additionally, those against the new crime say there is already a law that bars people from interfering with law enforcement investigations. Anyone who was convicted of the new crime of knowingly or intentionally approaching a police officer after being ordered to stop approaching or retreat faces up to $500 fine, up to 60 days in jail, or both. Language in the measure appears to put in some safety net, stating that an acceptable defense to this crime includes establishing that a lawful command was neither received nor understood by the defendant. Well, that's after you go to jail, though. You see what I'm saying? That's after you go to jail, post bond, life is flipped upside down. You get an attorney and you have a defense. That's what they gave. It's a damn shame. We knew this would happen, dear brother. We've seen it a few years ago when individuals obviously were advocating for police body cameras, et cetera. There was a lot of pushback about people recording them. But here's the irony. If you're a good cop, you want everybody recording you.
Yeah. Well, look, I think, Dr. Ritchie, I mean, the proof, as you point out, the proof that this is in fact an effort to squelch people from recording the police, the proof exists simply in the case law, and that is several circuit courts, and I believe it's even the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, have previously struck down these buffer zones, that the buffer zones are greater than, I think it's 8 or 10 feet. The idea that it's 25 feet, that is so far beyond the case law that it will certainly get struck down at the appellate level. The question becomes, if this gets kicked up to the Supreme Court, will the Supreme Court now, a conservative court, decide, well, yeah, maybe we're going to give law enforcement a bit of a break somehow by keeping people back? And it seems like the case law is so overwhelmingly against this. The Constitution makes it clear, and the interpretations of the Constitution make it clear. We have a right on public property, in the public site, in the public streets, as long as we're not interfering with police activity, to film and record our government officials. Now, if they're on private property, then that's a different matter. But again, it doesn't the 25 feet, if you're on a sidewalk, if you're in a public easement and you're filming a cop, you have every right to film that cop as long as you're not interfering. And the moment our society says, no, we have to stop that, is the moment that we empower the bad cops and enable them to get away with more ridiculous stuff. And we hurt the good cops who are trying to do the right thing.
That's right, well said. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay. Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
Today we're going to be speaking with Cenk Uygur, host of The Young Turks and also author of the new book, Justice is Coming.
Author of the brand new book that we have here, Justice is Coming.
How progressives are going to take over the country and America is going to love it.
His new book is out now, Justice is Coming.
Cenk Uygur,
he's got a book out.
I encourage every progressive and non-progressive to read it.
Very interesting, very thought-provoking.
2 main ideas. 1, that progressives are correct on these kind of policy issues. And 2, America is actually a very progressive country.
And it's a powerful read.
This will be banned in Florida. By the way, that would be kind of awesome. There's no question we're going to win in the long run. The country's that progressive.
You have given me hope, Cenk.
I do see you as a voice of reason on the left, and I hope people will check out your book.
It's for outsiders, and it's for progressives and populists that are looking to overthrow this system.
You need this book in your house.
They tell you that change is not possible, hope is not possible, justice is not possible. Do not believe their lies. Change always wins. And then we take off like a rocket.
TYT.com/justice.
All right, welcome back. Lot of show left. Let me read some of these comments. Before I do that, membership. We would love for you to join, all right? Real simple. Without you, there is no Indisputable. There's no TYT Network. You are the oil in the engine, all right? You make it possible. You can support our work as a member at tyt.com/team, tyt.com/team, or by clicking the join button on YouTube now, all right? We'd love to have you. Comments, all right? 36 Chambers _Dragon. Hey, Dr. Richard, just got your signed book on Shop TYT in the mail on Friday. Finishing up a book right now. Can't wait to start on yours. Keep up the great work. All the love to the TYT fam. Well, thank you so much. And I have another one coming soon. Going through some back and forth with a good friend of mine who's a supervisor in the process of my doctoral research in physics. So he has to clear it, but I will be lecturing on that book in Egypt later this month, and I'll provide updates when that happens, all right? But I appreciate you doing that. Kara, Marku said, should also be investigated by Child Protective Services. That's right. What are the odds that this child abuser thinks violence is a good way to teach his own child a lesson? And what he said, he offered the additional information to the officers to suggest he needs to be investigated for child abuse. He says, yeah, he needed to be taught a lesson. Also, bright-eyed 007 in Louisiana now, running from the police, is just trying to be a lawful citizen. That's a great interpretation of the 25-foot rule. I love it. That is a great legal theory. I was running away because I wanted to make sure we maintain that 25 feet. I love it. All right, that may actually be a defense one day. Nightmare 316. I'm talking about Trump. With all vile he spews, I'm surprised his breath doesn't stink. You know his breath stinks. All right, I got something for you, ladies and gentlemen. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on him for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free. Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Man, married man. Yeah, good. And what are you going to do about it, fat bitch? You hairy, you're the fat one. You're the fat one. You're the fat one. Right there. You're the fat one. You're the fat one.
Put up the picture full mask. This particular individual, male Karen of today, did a few things. Number one, decided to yell racial slurs utilizing the N-word. Was obviously rude and also spat on the young lady you saw. She did not provoke anyone. She was not trying to be physically violent. He may not have liked something about her representation. That doesn't give you the right to assault anybody. It doesn't matter who you are or who they are. The video is going viral on Reddit and Instagram. The text overlay reads, quote, "These grown men spat on us, groped us, and verbally assaulted us at a peaceful protest in Queens, New York." That's what it reads. Now, this is an opportunity, gentlemen, for reflection, because naturally, this is unnatural to treat another human being this way. And if it happened to you, I would be advocating for you against whoever did it to you. But it didn't happen to you. You were the perpetrator. You did it to somebody else. Reflect on your actions. All right, David, thoughts here.
This is just so sad. I mean, no matter what the protest was, no matter what sort of cause that group had taken up, look, even if they had taken up a cause that I find vile, let's say the white nationalists or neo-Nazis, whatever it is, they still have a right to demonstrate, and it is against the law, and it is despicable for anybody to assault them. And that's what spitting on somebody is. The courts have found that that is assault, and it's just such horrendous behavior. And it makes me, every time that I think that our society can't get much worse, I see some knucklehead like this who he doesn't like something in front of him, and so he decides to grope them and call them names and to spit on them. That's the lowest form of human behavior. And I just think no matter what it is, this has to be condemned.
That's right. That's right. All right. Update. Remember the story we brought you of the white teen male who physically assaulted the black girl? Well, he has now pleaded guilty. Put up the picture full mass. It was horrific. This was a shocking youth hate crime that had all of the aggravating elements. Breonna Brown was viciously attacked by a white male student. The assault left her hospitalized with a broken nose and other injuries. During the attack, the male student repeated over and over again the N-word. Both students were originally suspended, both. Last week, the aggressor pled guilty. Guilty to a felony count of aggravated battery causing great bodily harm. It was brutal what he did, brutal. Breonna's mother says it closes one chapter and opens another after 6 months of fear and chaos. Quote, there are consequences for every action. The mother says, we teach all of our kids that, and they need to teach him that. Now he's learning it, but he's learning it the hard way. Quote, I'm just excited about it because I feel like that is closing a chapter for Breonna. He pled guilty and she can move on. That means she doesn't have to testify. She doesn't have to go to a trial, all right? She can move on with that part of her life. But despite the verdict, Breonna says she was still transferred to a new school. Quote, it put us through a lot of stress. It made me feel like I wasn't safe anywhere I would be at, like at school and in the hallways and stuff, she says. Breonna's mother also says she hopes this case may prevent others like it, saying, quote, if you know there is racism and you have other people there, just don't sweep it under the rug. Take it seriously. Because if you don't, this could happen again or something even worse. And we're sending our kids to you. And you're supposed to protect our kids. We need you to do that. The male's father also publicly chimed in saying, quote, I'm upset. My son hit a girl. That's one. But two, I was mad that he opened his mouth or anything of that sort because he should just wait and get a teacher. Keep this picture up for a minute. Sir, your son repeated the N-word over and over again in a violent rage. Where did he get that from? Because you didn't address it, sir. There's more. According to Fox and the Atlanta Black Star, the male student had a history of conflict with black students, other black students. You see, what you saw in his rage was some kind of learned hate, it seemed, just waiting to get out of him, out of his body. None of these individuals did anything to make him angry. They didn't take anything from him. He acted as if they did. There's more. At the same time, at the time of the assault, promoted local and countywide protests, a school walkout was organized by the students who claimed they did not feel safe at that school. As reported by local outlets, many pointed to previous incidents where the administrators allegedly ignored concerns regarding racism on campus. Keep up the picture of these hero students. We've reported so many times right here on Indisputable of administrators ignoring the reality of bullying. Typically, these are majority white institutions. And for them, it is a cultural expression more so than a catalyst for violence. But we have seen over and over again routinely that when left unaddressed, the culture permeates into physical combat, physical violence, physical attack. This is bullying too. This is bullying too. So you can't talk about your anti-bullying campaign, but you won't allow racism or racist words to be categorized as incidents of bullying. All right, once again, administrators totally not responsible according to everybody in the narrative. And this was part of the why. David, thoughts?
Well, good for Brianna that she's able to move on. And I'm glad that she doesn't have to testify and she can go to a new school and perhaps get a new start. And I'm also glad that this kid pled guilty. But to your point, I mean, and also incredible praise to these students for raising awareness and for taking a stand. But it does get to something that I think is sometimes so frustrating to me also as a parent. And that is at my kid's school, the theme is be kind. And sometimes I think, oh, maybe it's too difficult to ask all children to be kind. But you can ask all kids to be neutral or to keep their mouth quiet if in fact they have good parental role models or good role models at home who are teaching them, look, you may not like everything you see in front of you. You may have certain biases, but part of growing up and part of being a community is that you keep things to yourself and you simply, somebody says something you don't like, you just move on. And clearly this kid has been trained somewhere, perhaps at home, that it's okay to speak out and use the N-word and to be derogatory towards people who are different than or people that you don't like. And somehow we have to figure out how to intervene in this stuff. That I think there's, for every parent that we identify that say, oh yeah, this parent's probably responsible. I guarantee you there are lots of other families that are that way as well. There's a systemic institutional problem that we have not yet fixed, and we have to fix it, especially in our schools.
Kids are not always listening, but they are always learning. And they learn from every nuance of your behavior, your character, your conversations with other people. And in this, we teach them. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Now, I'm going to do something very different here and read some one-star reviews of the Young Turks on Apple Podcasts. Donnie Franchise said, pretty much it's like listening to a trash compactor. Someone else said, negative, anti-American propaganda. And others said, out of context, misquotes, typical leftists who are afraid to debate, just smear. These two would be perfect for CNN or MSLSD. Well, Donnie, you might have a point, because I feel like a trash compactor right now after taking in all those garbage reviews. But thanks for listening anyway. We are, in fact, unapologetically progressive. And if you're not ready for bold commentary, then we're not the show for you. On the Young Turks, we speak up about the issues that matter, and we want to make positive change happen. And now here's why we actually do the show. Mariel Morales said, found this podcast from the True Crime Podcast, Fruit Loops, and other great progressive podcasts. I've become an instant fan of the Young Turks. Great conversation, great takes, very well composed, factual podcast, very informative. Love to hear that. Z55 said, it's a joy to experience such awareness and intelligence from fascinating people. And Anna is gorgeous and brilliant. Apparently I'm just fascinating, but I'll take it. Paul for Progress said, news well delivered. Appreciate it. KOOK said, Democrats and Republicans are fair game for TYT. And if Anna or Cenk provide disinformation about anything, they will admit they made a mistake and correct it. We appreciate you noticing that we are honest. To people who actually listen to the substance of the show, thank you. Your listenership supports what we do. Leave a 5-star rating for the Young Turks on Apple Podcasts. Let's take the ratings back from the trolls.
Today we're going to be speaking with Cenk Uygur, host of The Young Turks and also author of the new book, Justice is Coming.
Author of the brand new book that we have here, Justice is Coming.
How progressives are going to take over the country and America is going to love it.
His new book is out now. Justice is Coming.
Cenk Uygur, he's got a book out.
I encourage every progressive and non-progressive to read it.
Very interesting, very thought-provoking.
Two main ideas. One, that progressives are correct on these kind of policy issues. And two, America is actually a very progressive country.
And it's a powerful read.
This will be banned in Florida. By the way, that would be kind of awesome. There's no question we're going to win in the long run. The country's that progressive.
You have given me hope, Cenk.
I do see you as a voice of reason on the left, and I hope people will check out your book.
It's for outsiders, and it's for progressives and populists that are looking to overthrow this system.
You need this book in your house.
They tell you that change is not possible, hope is not possible, justice is not possible. Do not believe their lies. Change always wins. And then we take off like a rocket. TYT.com/justice.
About the shirt you're wearing.
Pretty much speaks for itself. What's the penalty for treason? Death. Everything was phenomenal under Donald Trump, and now it's Obama calling the shots right now. It ain't Biden.
So it's Obama calling the shots?
I believe so. None of this would be happening if they hadn't stolen the 2020 election from Trump and we the people.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read some of these beautiful comments. They really are. Lynn says, Breonna's attacker wasn't charged with a hate crime. David Morris, what a vile creature. How you gonna spit on anyone, let alone a woman? Yeah. And Legend, I got it. Legend Killer 26. I'm from Queens, New York. And we do not claim these fools. Also, fascist killer. They should sue the school for her being suspended when she was a damn victim. Absolutely, 100%. And Fidel Castro, obviously that part didn't bother him, which is why he didn't speak to it. Dad thinks it's normal. Yeah, not a big deal, just horseplay. Okay, hell of a thing. New York cops tried to handcuff a child for selling fruit near the park. Community got involved. Here's what happened.
Bro, what are you doing? He's wrong. Get a female. Get a female. Stop touching her. Stop touching her. Stop touching her. Get off of her. Don't touch me. Somebody else.
Put up the picture full mass here. Understand what just happened. Officer Davis of the New York Parks Enforcement Patrol takes his job too damn seriously. That's why he's looking like a clown, okay? I'm going to let you see it again. Here it is.
Get a female! Get a female! Stop touching her! Stop touching her! Stop touching her! Get off of her! Don't touch me! Somebody else!
Put this picture up again. Sir, you are a coward. Why would you take the time to get those 3 stripes to arrest a little girl for selling fruit? You see, the other officers, they didn't treat this like a man down situation. New York City Department of Parks and Recreation said it is now investigating a video that shows a city employee restraining a girl inside a Lower Manhattan park. The video, filmed at the Battery on Sunday, shows a Parks Department employee with his arms around the girl as onlookers yell and try to help the girl break free. Big ups to them, by the way. They did the right thing. The employee appears to fall to the ground, pulling the girl down with him, at which point she breaks free from his grasp, the video shows. The man who recorded the video said the girl and her family had been selling fruit. The incident happened after the NYPD and Parks Enforcement, they confiscated perishable items from unlicensed vendors in the park. A spokesperson for the Department of Parks and Recreation told PIX 11 on Monday. The spokesperson said that as officers attempted to destroy certain items, 2 people intervened, but it was not immediately clear if these were the people seen in the video. The department will conduct an internal investigation. The statement reads, quote, "Our Parks Enforcement Patrol's first course of action is to educate in order to bring violators into compliance. When individuals have repeatedly flouted the law, we take additional enforcement actions. And there are instances when it is necessary to place violators and individuals obstructing the law under arrest." This is a sad state of affairs. Put her up. Sue Donahue was appointed commissioner of New York Parks by Mayor Eric Adams back in 2022. Person in charge right there. Buck stops with her. Policy is set and enforced by leadership of the agency. So let's look at this from a human perspective. Dick Gregory said something to me before he passed. I interviewed him on my radio show a few times. And he said, you got to be careful, Doc, because this world will have you thinking what's illegal is wrong and what's legal is right, when sometimes they do not equivocate. So let's get out of the realm of man's law just for a second. Get out of the statutory language, out of the city ordinances. It's a child selling fruit. Why? Because the family likely needs money. And so they have invested into a product. It is an honest business. And what is the protocol for the Parks and Recreation Department with people hungry, homeless, starving? Destroy it. destroy it, and then arrest the child. We don't get to hide behind our laws when we treat people like they're subhuman. All of this happened prior to them recording. So we didn't see them destroying the fruit. We didn't see them breaking down the vendor table. We saw them trying to arrest a poor, helpless little girl. And that's what that community saw too. And they stepped in and did the right thing, in my humble opinion. David, thoughts here?
Just disgusted. I mean, look, I get that there are fruit stands all over New York City, and sure, I suppose you need whatever licensing or certification to be on a particular location. But even if this family didn't have, and it's a big if, even if they didn't have the proper certification to be a vendor where they were, there's so many ways that the Parks Department could have handled this. They could have said, okay, give me your name, give me your ID. We're going to take some pictures. We're going to take this to the police and have the police come. But for the parks security to take this into their own hands, to destroy their stand, to destroy I mean, that's outrageous just in and of itself. And then to go hands-on with a 10-year-old girl, that's insane. I mean, I remember I thought we were a place where 10-year-olds could sell cookies and lemonade stand, and we'd all support that sort of thing. And now we have the New York Security Parks Department has now been labeled as absolute thugs who don't care about children, who don't care about immigrants. How does that make any of us safer? How does that protect any of us from future fruit stands that are not licensed properly? The way the story goes, I hope that this family, if they're identified, that the city will come together and people who really do want to buy fruit at any place in Manhattan will flood this family and their new business and get them back on their feet and make them millionaires overnight, make them the most popular fruit sellers in New York. That would send the right message to the Parks Department.
And that is how you convert negative energy into beneficial energy. All right, 13-year-old child working 60 hours a week at major company, Hyundai. Put it up full mass. We actually reported on this in the beginning. A lawsuit filed by the US Department of Labor reveals that a 13-year-old baby, she was working 60 hours a week in Alabama at their factory instead of attending school. She punched out sheet metal parts for cars. She was among multiple underage workers employed in violation of child labor laws, not a one-off. Per Market Watch, a 13-year-old working on an assembly line in the United States of America shocks the conscious, said Jessica Lumen, the administrator of the department's wage and hour division. Quote, as we work to stop illegal child labor where we find it, we also continue to ensure that all employers are held accountable for violating the law. The civil suit filed in federal court in Montgomery, Alabama, seeks an injunction barring the company's Alabama subsidiary, Hyundai Motor Manufacturing Alabama LLC, a firm called Smart Alabama LLC, which operated the plant, and a labor recruitment firm, Best Practice Service, from continuing to use child labor. You got to get an injunction to stop an illegal child labor operation, best practices, et cetera. So it also seeks an order from the court for the companies to surrender any profits made from cars that were manufactured using child labor, all right? Quote, consumers throughout the United States unknowingly purchased automobiles that were manufactured with oppressive child labor. Defendants profited by these sales and financial transactions related to the same and continue to retain those profits today. The suit read, the use of child labor at the Alabama factory was first uncovered in 2022. In a statement, the company said the use of child labor was, quote, not consistent with the standards and values we hold ourselves to as a company, but that it intended to defend itself in court. The statement read, "We worked over many months to thoroughly investigate this issue and took immediate and extensive remedial measures. We presented all this information to the U.S. Department of Labor in an effort to resolve the matter, even while detailing the reasons why no legal basis existed to impose liability under the circumstances. Unfortunately, the Labor Department is seeking to apply an unprecedented legal theory that would unfairly hold Hyundai accountable for the actions of its suppliers and set a concerning precedent for other automotive companies and manufacturers. We are reviewing the new lawsuit and intend to vigorously defend the company." Put up the president. I got a few words here. You're right, Mr. President. They are utilizing a novel legal theory in order to make you part of the civil action. The reason they're doing that is because, obviously, in their investigation, they believe that you knew or should have known that this was happening due to the widespread reality of multiple underage workers. And that if you did not do your due diligence, maybe it was convenient for you to have plausible deniability. There's a reason you're caught up in the suit. And it's not because you provided all of the evidence and you were completely transparent. No. It is likely because some folk that work for the company turned the other way when children were being forced into labor. Child labor is not voluntary. Give a damn what you say. In a letter to shareholders last year, President Jay Chong announced the company would divest its interest in Smart Alabama, stating that they were misled by the labor provider, but still took responsibility. He wrote, "The use of underage labor at a supplier or any operation is unacceptable, and we're committed to making sure noncompliance never happens again. This is a zero tolerance issue. Even though there were issues with third-party staffing agencies that provided false documentation to these suppliers, ultimately, the responsibility is with us to make sure all our suppliers understand and meet our high global workforce standards." It's called quality control, sir. You are a significantly brilliant CEO. How do you keep protocols, processes, and compliance in place? Rigorous quality control. Don't you tell your employers that? Don't you tell your executive team that? So why didn't you do it? All right, David, thoughts here?
I just think, look, if this was a one-off, if this was just one kid that had been found to be working at the factory, okay, maybe the company doesn't know. But as you point out, when there's a pattern, when there's several children, multiple children, to me, then there is a huge problem here. And it's not enough just to say, well, we didn't know about it, we didn't hear about this, our suppliers didn't tell us. No, the responsibility is on Hyundai to proactively, at the start, make it absolutely clear to your suppliers, to your supply chain, this is what we tolerate and this is what will not be tolerated. And when there's some sort of permissiveness, when there is this sort of, oh, we're not really paying close attention to you, that's when this stuff happens. And I think Hyundai's responsible. And if they were smart, instead of making this a multi-week story, they would just settle this thing, admit that there were things that happened that should not have happened, and explain, here's what we're gonna do to fix it, and end of story.
That's right. And given their attitude, their rejection, we'll defend this vigorously. Yeah, they probably were acting like that during that prerequisite interview and investigation. And that's why the Department of Labor decided to put them as party to the suit. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay. Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
I got pulled in. They told me, hey, listen, Cenk, we're insiders. We are the establishment. People in Washington tell me that they're concerned about your tone. We think that there's a better role for you, and it's not in 6 o'clock. The problem with the mainstream media is they're desperate to get access. They don't challenge the government. They don't challenge power. We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media.
Components that corrupt our politicians, I think, also corrupt mainstream media. It's really difficult for cable outlets to talk about things like income inequality, wealth inequality, when the advertisers that are funding their shows are the same corporations that want to ensure that the same system continues. People watch digital media or new media, they get a completely different message. They focus on the issues that matter or resonate more with the constituency. We need to know one thing. Is the corporate media incompetent?
Corporate media, I can't hear you. Establishment press, where are you? I can't hear you. But the media's position I am clear on. Everything is pro-war, so everything is just framed that way. In this case, I mean, war is inevitable, right? I mean, the defense contractors should get a couple more $1 trillion. You ready for the stunning results? Only 6% of people say they have a great deal of confidence in the press. Wakey, wakey, okay? Progressives don't like the media either. You know why? It's the corporate media. Corporate media sounds like a conspiracy. Wait. Who owns you? Multi-billion-dollar corporations, public corporations. The idea that we're corporate media because corporations own us. Yeah, that's how it works.
A new TYT app experience is now available. Check out brand new features like voting in polls and signing petitions. You can also follow your favorite TYT shows, join the live chat, engage in message boards, search for and follow topics you care about, and much more. Download the app by searching for TYT in the App Store or via Google Play.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read some of these beautiful comments. Lynn says, what a terrible experience for that little girl, a security officer trying to cuff her. People grabbing at her to pull her away. Everyone screaming around her. Horrible experience, you're right. And moments like this, it helps define a person's why. It's unfortunate it had to happen while she's so young. She should not have experienced this. But the cop definitely got what he deserved. All right. Should we protect each other, protect our kids? Damn right. Damn right. Anomaly me, it's a wrap for Hyundai. No coming back off of this, especially if they go to court, deposition, sworn affidavits, testimony. Come on. And Fidel Castro Oil, individuals obstructing the law cannot, by definition, be a child. Good point. I understand your point quite well. And, yep, so interesting. Jack Dragon, 1991. What business called the police on a little girl? Exactly. Who did so? Agreed. All right, here we go. Insanity on top of insanity. Eric Trump says the black vote is swinging over to Trump in spades. He couldn't help himself. Here it is.
Everybody wants to know what this verdict means for the presidential election. You know that. That's all anyone's talking about at this point.
Well, Maria, as I walked out of that courthouse that day, I said May 30th, 2024 might be the day that won it for Donald Trump. I'm telling you, I've never seen this country more upset about what's happening. And, you know, it's a law of unintended consequences. The Democrats always dig so deep that they end up finding themselves. They think that their little trickery will be overlooked, that they're smarter than everybody else. America's looking through this nonsense, and I think the harder they hit him, the more they do this, the more money he's going to raise, the more independence he's going to get. As I mentioned, I mean, the swing of independent voters after this conviction has been unbelievable because no one believes it. And, you know, they're literally feeding him, you know, certain segments of the population that he might not have had in 2016 and 2020. Because for the first time, they realize that the system's coming down, that he's the victim. He's the victim that oftentimes some of their communities were. And you see them swing. You look at the African-American vote, right? That's swinging over to Donald Trump in spades. Look at the Hispanic vote over the last couple.
In spades, sir? I get it, Eric. You forgot you're not at the country club. Put it up full mass. Oh, Eric. Hopping his happy ass on television in order to impress a dad who could care less about loving him. Eric, you will be loved one day, young man. All right? You will. Eric Trump claimed on Sunday morning, Fox News, that black voters are gravitating toward his father, Donald Trump, swinging over to him in spades. The former president's son used the terminology while insisting his father's criminal conviction last week will help him among various voting blocs in November. On Thursday, a Manhattan jury found Donald Trump guilty of 34 felony counts, falsifying business records. Republicans have slammed the verdict, calling it a partisan travesty, while insisting that it will nonetheless vault the ex-president back into the White House. Now, just a reminder, the Manhattan DA did not convict. The jury did. The jury is made up of American citizens. A jury looked at evidence called a grand jury, once again, American citizens. And the jury that oversaw the case, or were the fact finders in the case, they looked at all the evidence and concluded he committed the crime. I don't think there's a person truly, authentically, who believes Donald Trump over Stormy Daniels. Everybody believes Stormy Daniels over an individual they would like to make, well, dictator in chief. There's more. Mediaite notes, Eric Trump is not alone in claiming black people will be more accepting now because of the new reality of criminal conviction on his record. So in February, Donald Trump said at the Black Conservative Federation Gala, hell of a place to be, I assume, his charges are why the black people like me, though he avoided saying in spades. Good for him. Here's a reminder.
And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing, but it.
I know you're laughing at your damn self. You're chuckling like they actually think you're being serious, Donald. And then Donald just went with it. After people were like, Gary, you are being discriminated against. After that speech, he said, you know what? I am. America simply does not have the right policies and protocols for rich, well-connected white men. And so now there's this whole white policy to make sure that there's anti-white discrimination. Well, at least they believe discrimination exists now. There's more. Let me take you to another video. Here it is.
If you're not voting for Donald Trump, then you ain't black or an American. President Trump just won the 2024 election, and the Democrats just gave us 34 more reasons to vote for him. The entire judicial system is weaponized against the one man who wants to secure freedom. You're a patriot or a traitor.
Ma'am, are you black? I'm just asking. I'm serious. I would like to know. All right, let's put it up. Meanwhile, Valentino Gomez, diehard MAGA, far-right candidate for Missouri Secretary of State in the general election, took to X following Trump's conviction and posted that video. Why she's talking to black people? I mean, all right, David.
Well, Valentino's the same person.
Yeah,
a couple of weeks ago, who I don't want to steal your thunder here because
I don't have, brother. I got nothing else to say.
All right, so Valentina, as running for Secretary of State, Missouri, just a couple of weeks ago, she put up an ad in which she was using a flamethrower to burn books. So that's all I really need to know about her. Wow. As far as Eric Trump just proved yet again that sometimes a private school education does not guarantee you a better education or better intellect than public schools. Eric Trump, just last week, he was the same one who said, oh, we didn't do anything wrong, we're white. I think he meant to say we are right, but the Freudian slip, we are white. I mean, that speaks volumes about where Eric Trump's mind is. And when he's not dabbling in racism or thinking about racism or being superior to people who look different than him, Eric Trump should perhaps pay a little attention to the polls, because every single poll that has been taken since the conviction, Reuters Ipsos, ABC News, YouGov, Monmouth, they all show that Donald Trump has been hurt by the conviction. They all show that whereas the race was maybe Donald Trump ahead by 2 or 3 points a week ago, now Joe Biden is ahead by 2 or 3 points.
That's correct.
And again, this is just starting the process when the Democrats are going to start putting up more ads about the conviction. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. And oh, by the way, there's all these policy differences as well. So sure, Eric Trump may be trying to lie like his father does and somehow pull one over on the American people, but he's not as good of a snake oil salesman as his dad. And anybody who would come out and say, oh yeah, this is good for my dad, this is good for us politically, is absolutely insane.
That's right. And once again, Donald Trump, Eric Trump, the whole crowd, they never offer a policy agenda for the black community and truly no community other than rich people. And they will provide a policy, an exacting policy agenda for the wealthy. They provide red meat for their MAGA supporters while being adversarial in policy. And they provide rhetoric like, all right, I'm a convicted felon, now black people like me, for those who are people of color. All right, hell of a thing. Herschel Damn Walker says, they say you owe some people some money, Herschel, that you're sitting on some money and the GOP need to get that back up out of you. Put it up full mass. Herschel Walker, according to, well, the data, the report, the information, is sitting on more than $4 million from his failed run against Senator Raphael Warnock. And both the Georgia Republican Party and former President Donald Trump's campaign are clamoring for the cash. Keep this picture up. So, sir, you mean to tell me you lost and had $4 million extra dollars? And you've been sitting on the $4 million, not contributing that money. You can't use it for personal expenses, at least not legally. I mean, Herschel may not have it. Has anybody actually checked the bank account? According to Politico, Herschel Walker has $4.3 million in his campaign account, which he can't use for personal expenses, but can hold on to it as a war chest for any federal election, federal office he chooses to run for in the future. Reporter Brittany Gibson noted that the Peach State GOP is, quote, nearly broke and desperate for the U.S. Senate candidate it nominated in 2022 to part with that money to help down ballot candidates in 2024. Well, I thought Herschel Walker was a Christian man, team player. There's more. After losing the U.S. Senate race, the runoff election, December 2022, Walker, who hadn't previously run for any elected office, has been effectively invisible. The former two-time Pro Bowl athlete decided to finish his undergraduate degree at the University of Georgia, where he played Division I football before entering the NFL draft. Actually, I applaud him for doing so, okay? He was saying for a very long time that he did graduate from there, and being a superstar football player so powerful, they just decided to go with it and never contradicted the man. When reached by phone, Walker denied his 7-figure bank balance of unspent funds in his campaign account. Quote, "It wasn't money left in my account. Everyone keeps saying that," Walker said. As to clarify what he meant, Walker quickly ended the call, saying he was in the middle of writing a paper. Whew, it's gonna take a while. He said, quote, "We could talk about it sometime," but did not respond to multiple further inquiries, including most recently last week. Can you put up his picture again? Sir, did you say to the reporter, "It was not money left in my account"? Everybody keeps saying that. Sir, according to the federal government, you have $4.3 million. If that money is not in your account, so you just admitted to a major federal offense. I mean, 4.3 million, Herschel. Okay. FEC limits what campaign funds can be spent on. The money must be used for electioneering purposes only. On a campaign, or you could transfer it to another active campaign committee, or Walker could donate it to a charity. Walker and his treasurer remain stewards of the fund, and they cannot transfer the money directly to Walker. The outlet reported that Walker transferred $100,000 of those funds to the National Republican Senatorial Committee's recount fund, and gave another $400,000 to various charities and nonprofits. However, the rest remains untouched. And Republicans are saying it should either be refunded to donors, which never happens. I don't know why they're telling him to do this. Donated to the Georgia GOP, or give to one of former President Donald Trump's super PACs back in his 2024 candidacy by paying his legal bills. Here it is, a live look right here. Herschel Walker, move, yep. Herschel, got any change? I got these cheeseburgers, man. I don't know what you all gonna do here. Herschel said I ain't got it. Don't know why they keep asking about that 4.3 million. I ain't got it. Herschel, did you spend the money, Herschel? Dave, I think the man has spent the money, man.
You know what? I don't know what to believe, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this, because on the one hand, okay, maybe he should be the team player and give it to the Republican Party or some of these various charities or whatnot. Or on the other hand, I mean, there's nothing requiring him to give up this money. And if he has some idea, some fantasy land that after he gets his bachelor's degree, maybe he's going to run for federal office again and he needs that money, that's fine. I just wish that at that point he would say, hey, I'm going to hold on to the money. Too bad, suckers. And make the Republican Party sweat and be angry at him and just speak the truth. Say, I'm keeping this money. It was donated to my campaign. I'm not giving it to your campaign. Too bad. Be honest about it. We can have some fun either way.
Yeah. He ain't got it, man. He ain't got the money. He ain't got it. All right. We got an update for you, some twists and turns, and I would even say redemption. Remember the man who was driving while on suspended license? Judge said, listen, you got to turn yourself in. All right, you can't come to court on a suspended license driving a car. I'll remind you of the video and give you the new update. Here it is.
Assistant Public Defender Natalie Tate for Mr. Harris, who should be present via Zoom.
Mr. Harris, are you driving?
Actually, I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually. So just give me 1 second. I'm parking right now.
Wait. You stationary?
I'm pulling in right now at this second. Yes, I am.
All right. What are we doing?
Your Honor, we are respectfully requesting an adjournment in this matter, up possibly 2 to 4 weeks if the court would allow.
So maybe I don't understand something. This is a driving while license suspended,
That is correct, Your Honor.
and he was just driving, and he didn't have a license.
Is with the charges, Your Honor, yes.
No, I'm looking at his
Yes.
record. He doesn't have a license. He's suspended and he's just driving.
That is correct, Your Honor.
I don't even know why he would do that. So defendant's bond is revoked in this matter. Defendant is turning himself into the Washington County Jail by 6 p.m. today. Failure to turn himself in will result in a bench warrant with no bond.
All right, put up the picture full mass. I have an update, and like I said, I think some redemption. Now, when the judge posed the question, sir, are you driving? Yes, or should have been driving. No, this is a new background app. It just looks like I'm driving. Okay. What was the judge going to do? He's on the bench. He can't come and verify. The video of Corey Harris that went viral has garnered a lot of attention, but for Harris, who's trying to understand how he even ended up being charged for driving with a suspended license, the suspension is tied to a child support case out of another county. And in January 2022, the judge ordered that suspension to be lifted to allow Harris to drive again. Now, according to the Michigan Secretary of State's office, they never received a clearance from the court in 2022. So the suspension was never lifted. Harris recently appeared on a courtroom video that showed him driving during a virtual hearing on the misdemeanor case that stemmed from a traffic stop in Pittsfield Township, October 2023. So that's when he had contact with law enforcement and they said, hey, you have this suspension. He was coming to court for it, but the original reason for the suspension was supposed to be lifted according to the narrative. Harris said he was driving his wife. He had a lot going on that day, driving his wife to the doctor because she had a medical condition. It was worsening. 7 News Detroit has reached out to the prosecutor's office as well as Harris's defense attorneys. And speaking for the public defender's office, a county spokesperson said they do not comment on ongoing court cases. All right. And so the county court has also not responded to the calls. But Friday afternoon, Secretary of State's office confirmed that they never received the clearance from the friend of the court that would have allowed him to be reinstated after he paid some fees. Okay. So that's still unclear at the moment. Miss Kyla Crane is the deputy legal director for the Michigan Secretary of State. Said helping people clear up suspensions on their license is exactly why they created the Road to Restoration program, where they hold clinics across Michigan, helping people sort through the complications of getting their driver's license reinstated. So Ms. Crane said the process can be complicated and people don't often know what they need to do to get reinstated. Quote, that's why we provide that one-on-one consultation with the resident to help them understand what they need to do. She said, adding that sometimes people are afraid to go to the Secretary of State's office or the court for fear of being arrested. You're damn right. That man got arrested in his car. So I understand why somebody would be afraid. Obviously, we understand the bureaucracy and the chaos that can be associated with license, driving, et cetera. I've been there before myself. So I feel for this gentleman. I'm glad that he's able to have some rebuttal and redemption that's provided via media now, all right? Seems to be a very good guy, very active in his church, community, et cetera, good man. Okay, Dave, thoughts here.
We did this video on Rebel HQ when it first came out, and I was sort of wondering why Mr. Harris was not commenting. And I said at the time, it's wise for him not to say anything. And that is if he has a response, give his response in court. And clearly that's what he has done, is that he's been disciplined to sort of go back and say, no, wait a second, have his lawyers go back and say, hey, my license should have been reinstated. It's the fault of the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State's office seems to sort of agree that perhaps it should have been reinstated, that he started making his payments again, his alimony payments, child support, whatever it is. So I'm glad that that this has turned out the way it has. But let this serve as a reminder to everybody, and I know, Dr. Richard, we've talked about this before, we all have a right against self-incrimination. If a police officer ever pulls you over and says, you know why I pulled you over? I don't know. I mean, you may know why, but you don't have to tell that to the cop, because the moment that you say, I was speeding, I ran through that light, I was not supposed to be here, then they have reason to arrest you or to suspend your license, give you a ticket. So we all have that right. Good luck to Mr. Harris. I hope that he has better luck with the courts in the future.
Yeah, next time, just say, I plead the fifth, y'all. All right.
I'm at court. I'm at court, Your Honor. I'm just, I'm not where you can see me.
That's it. That's all. All right, my dear brother, always a pleasure having you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you and check out your great work.
People can go to YouTube or Facebook, and in the search bar type Rebel HQ, Rebel Headquarters HQ, and search my name if you like. We got lots of videos that come up every couple of hours there from myself and other contributors. We talk about politics and media and the law and race relations and the Constitution and social justice. A lot of great material. And Rebel HQ is growing. It's not as growing as fast as TYT and Disputable's channel, but we are all honored, Dr. Ritchie, by the incredible work that you've done, and a rising tide lifts all ships. And thanks for having me on, as always.
Well, thank you, dear brother. I've been a fan of yours for many years. Very thankful for your continued leadership and the excellent reporting that you do. All right, remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.